Are you there yet?
I'm here. Thank you. If you switch it over, I will open it up. Yeah.
Yeah, are you both there?
No, only
You,
one.
yeah, I made you the co-host
Okay.
because I'm not fully dressed.
Yeah, that's fine. If yeah, I'll work it from here. If you want to, I actually didn't think you'd be able to make it today.
Well, I'm here.
Yes, you are. But we'll
Yeah.
just it'll show me when somebody pops in.
Um,
So
you
I'm
should
gonna
be able to see.
here. Yeah, and you know how to trim, right?
What?
You know how to trim the audio?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just pause it then. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to share my screen today because we have a great topic uh, and one that I've been waiting to talk to you about for a while. I'll get it to uh, I'll get it to our large screen here, and just how do we get through tough times and still keep our prosperity mindset? Because right when we're not feeling great about it, it's hard to come in with all of those positive thoughts. So what I'm going to work through today is just how do we keep thriving in our prosperity mindset and get through maybe underperforming. One of the things that I did add for you today was the photography images from flowers that I've taken over the last year or so, just to kind of get you in the vibe of of thriving. And one of the things that I often remind people about is why you should probably get a new book, a new notebook every year. And that is because you want to really start out with fresh ideas, not necessarily carry over everything from last year. Some things you can carry over, but you want to really look at what is it that you want to do this year and what is it that you want to do differently and coming in with those thoughtful loving eyes. And so I always tell people just get a notebook. It's the fastest way to say I'm going to put something down in this ideas and really start building your own thrive file. And the fastest way to do that is I would go back and look at the top 10 business wins that you had from last year. That nobody loses every day. Even, there's always something that went well last year. So it's really helpful to just go back in and look at what are the top 10 things that went well from last year. And that's part of the wisdom of getting yourself into a thriving mentality, is to look at what went well. And the other thing is that a lot of times people are working on a word for the year. And the word for the year is really there for you to grab at as kind of a Karen, right? I mean, a Karn, that you want to be able to look at that word and have it really be something that you can use as a guidepost. So when you're thinking about the word of the year, you really want to think about the word of the year that's right for you. So again, I'm just going to kind of review real quick that right, that we're going to add these pictures. Janet Mills just jumped in for us. Hello, Janet.
Hello.
And so for those of you who watch a lot of these, Janet notices all of the pictures because she sometimes takes them with me. So I did put in flowers to get us thriving today. But today it's thriving through tough times and just keeping that prosperity mindset approach. Of getting a notebook. You're going to want a new notebook every year to just kind of go, this is my fresh start. This is where I'm looking at. This is how I'm going to get new ideas, and really focusing in on the thriving. Going back to your year and looking at those top 10 wins that you had last year, especially if you have products that you've made, or something that's physical, or maybe a sale, whatever that is, you want to look at what those top 10 wins are. And that's where I would start in your notebook, is to just go, here's my top 10 wins from the previous year. Some of you are going to have like 50, and some of you are going to be like, I don't even know, I have 10, but you really do. Everybody, this has been a long time. This is my 25th year. And it really does work. And again, so where we came in again was just picking the word for the year. Remember that word for the year, that is your guidepost. So choose it well. And so when you're thinking about that word for the year, you're looking for where you're going to put your energy and how you're going to kind of wiggle forward in your prosperity mindset. So sometimes it is choosing a word that you wouldn't normally use in your vocabulary, like moxie. I want to have some moxie, or I want this to be spirited, or I want it to be a little more juiced, or I want a showcase, or I want, perhaps appreciation, that a lot of times we have appreciation for the people and the work that we're doing. So again, when you're picking a word for the year in prosperity mindset, that's the reminder bell of, oh yeah, this is where I'm going. Oh yeah, that's the thing I gotta have. So, I like words like spirited or juiced or advancement. I'm looking for advancement. Is this going to advance me? Is this going to help me grow? Is this going to help me showcase? Is this going to be, a focus on my talent? Because a lot of you are growing in lots of different ways. So think about your word for the year, and it's in probably page 2 of your notebook, right? What is my word for the year? Now, when we talk about today's concept of kind of understanding how, especially if you're underperforming or under earning, it's just understanding that what is the challenge. So is the challenge that you are not making enough money? Is the challenge that your hourly rate is wrong? Is it the challenge that you don't have enough clients? Is the challenge that you don't really want to dedicate more than this many hours to it? So it's really understanding that, and that's acknowledging and facing what is there, especially if it's low revenue. Low revenue is the easiest challenge that you can repair. So if it's just about revenue, congratulations, you've got the easiest one to fix. So great news. So looking at, and I took this picture, this image is from North Carolina. They all have this amazing canopy of growth over there's trees under there. So I kind of go, look, when we ask about the challenge, I go, what's under the net? What's under all of these leaves? Well, a full tree is under all of those. And sometimes for us in business, that's the tree of life. That a lot of times I'm overburdened by my life, and it's hard to get my business to work, right? Or I'm overburdened by, I have too many tasks, and I forget that I have all this stuff under here that has to get done. But the outer canopy doesn't work if the inner canopy isn't still alive and thriving. So my first piece is to acknowledge what's there. And I'll give you some tips on that in the next few slides, but you want to see what, just acknowledging, what am I facing? What am I facing? Are you facing burnout? Are you facing creativity block? Are you creating boredom? What is the pattern that you want changed? And then it's also normalizing it and normalizing the experience and sharing the common struggles. It's really, you would be surprised at how many times people are stunned in a new meeting that I'll go, oh, well, my guess is these 5 things are wrong. And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know? And I'm like, 25 years of doing this, right? Because a lot of us have the same struggles. And many of you have been doing your business for many years. So you have a lot of skills and you know how to do it. And right. And what's the phase of growth? You outgrow parts of you. Most of the people that are watching these videos are people that are constantly moving forward with integrity and grace. They're trying to get better. They're trying to get smarter. They're trying to do more creativity. They're tapping into their own creative power. And as you grow, so does the things that you need to do for yourself. So the old way of doing business will naturally, like a leaf on a tree, wilt in a season because that season is over. So just like the leaves on the trees every year going, oh, well, we've got to fade off and grow a new set next year. So do you. And so do I. Because what we did, if you've ever pulled out a piece of clothing that you wore, well, I'm older, so like I do have clothes from 20 years ago, maybe 40, ouch, ouch. But you pull out a piece of clothing and you're like, oh, that's so, and I can name any era, 80s, 90s, so 2000s, right? I could add any era and go, wow, that's so then, right? And so we do the same thing. And that's one of the things that I just want to remind everyone is that as you continually grow and you will shed the old way and you'll take on the new way. So normalizing those experiences are really helpful and exploring your potential for growth during tough times. And Kathy's just joined us. Hey, Kathy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, I'm just going to quick review what you missed because you didn't miss much. And I already see Janet clapping.
I like the photos.
Yes.
And,
So thriving through tough times is what we're talking about. I put in some pictures so you can have these beautiful flowers. And again, just starting with a notebook in the new year is the best tip I can give everyone is start that new year with a new notebook and really look at where are you going to go for this year. And I call it a Thrive file because it's also a place where you can start putting in your ideas and really going, okay, here's what I want next year to look like. And the way you start with prosperity is you start by going back and looking at the top 10, your business wins from last year, and really writing them in that notebook. You want to start that notebook with just a pile of goodness. And the pile of goodness is what you just got done doing. So the top 10 wins from the year, it can be a case, it can be a project, it can be a lot of things. Like when I was doing mine, I actually created some products that I was really proud of. So I taped them in my notebook to be like, and here's what I made. So think about what it is that you want to put in there. That I've seen you both at something else that was one of my top 10 this year was the cool person lunch, right? That I wanted to meet out with my friends. So that was a business win for me. Does it make me money? No, but does it let me have a greater life and enjoy my friends? Yes. So going back to the other thing in that notebook is I would start with a word for the year. Prosperity mindset is really, again, getting that focus area trained to a direction. So when you're thinking about your word for the year, you're thinking about it as a guidepost, a cairn, something that you see on your path that always goes, oh, I'm on the right place. And so when you're thinking about those words, I would definitely choose words that you don't normally use. Again, one of my favorite words is moxie, right? Give it a little zhuzh. But you want whatever is the direction that you're going to go for the year, you want that word to just really bring you back into focus every time. So it may be that you're looking at showcasing, it may be customer appreciation, it may be just thriving, it may be a more spirited word, like advancement or growth, or, I use the word juiced, like, let me get all this just delicious flavor out of what I'm doing, right? So when you're thinking of your word for the year, again, use something that's a little edgy and that is going to bring the vibration that you want forward, because it is your little happy bubble, right? And that's why I chose this picture, actually, is that I just want you to kind of think about it as your like little air bubble of hope. that you can go, yeah, that's my word. It's moxie, right? Or it's abundant. So you want that piece.
Oh, Miss,
Kathy, I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was trying to take a picture of you in your bubble.
Oh, here you go. There you
Okay.
go. Yeah.
But I got the trees. There we go.
Yes, there you go. You can have the bubble. This is actually out of a picture I took on the day. This was like my worst day in 2023, like the day that I made the largest like public screw up. So I always remind myself that I got to kind of go back to that airlock of who am I for when things don't go well. So understand the challenge of what you're facing. Some of you are facing things that are about money. Some of you, if you are just, and I mean that just really big, and I mean that in all capital letters, if what you're facing is just low revenue, that's the easiest business problem to solve. So if that's what you've got, boy, this is going to be a good year for you because revenue is easy to change. It's other things that aren't easy to change, right? Like products that are broken or, systems or whatever. There's a lot of things that aren't easy to do. So if low revenue is what you've got, that's an easy one to repair. So think about what is really under that. This is a picture from the Carolinas. So for those of you who have been in the Carolinas, this massive, everything grows like crazy. And so you look over and these leaves have covered the entire tree, but that tree is the tree of life. It can't grow without that foundation. So think about what it is that is the acknowledging of what is the reality that you're facing. And as we go through this, I've got some other ideas on what I think that reality sometimes is. And then again, it's normalizing the experience, right? That everybody that's self-employed has a little piece of courage that the rest of the world doesn't have. But you have to really stay tuned to your path, your life, your way forward. So it's normalizing what's here. It's talking about it. It's showing up here, right? And it's also just, we want to explore the potential for growth. What is fabulous about when something is torn down, something better is built. And that is true of cities that have been torn out by natural disasters. That's true of boyfriends that we didn't keep or girlfriends we didn't keep. That's true of a lot of things in our lives, right? There's apartments that we got out of, cars we got out of, right? When we tear something old down and put something else new, it's usually a good time. So if you've ever had like a crummy car that had its final day and then you got a much nicer car, you know what I mean, right? So the potential for tough times is a potential for growth. And that's something that I personally appreciate. So it's acknowledging it also, right, through loving eyes. And that's when I say to stop judging. You don't need to judge it and harshly. You need to look at it in the way that Mickey would look at it, right? That I would look on it without judgment to go, oh, okay, here's what we have. Why is that? And that's when you put on that curiosity part of yourself where you go, yeah, why do I have a hard time doing that? And I don't mean sugarcoat it. I mean, I'm not here to say, oh, don't be truthful. You want to get to the down and dirty because that's how it gets cleaned up. So you don't have to sugarcoat it, but you don't have to be mean either. So think about what is not working. And when I look at those top reasons, I just made a list of things that I had to actually think of just my own experience of like how many times was I going through this. And sometimes it was that I just didn't have the right base of clients, that I had outgrown my client base, that the people that I had as clients earlier, just they didn't match the work that I'm doing now. I had somebody that I actually knew when I was 18 call me out of the blue the other day and that he needed some stuff. And I went, well, what would possibly make you think of my name? You haven't talked to me in, like I haven't even had one word of conversation with him since the year that, so I don't know, maybe 2007. And he goes, well, I just knew you would know. Right, but you never talked to me. No, but I knew you would know all these things. And he was right? But he's not someone in my natural base, but sometimes we keep people in our base that even though we're not utilizing them they're still a resource, but they're just kind of they're under a pile of current life. So for me, I noticed that I didn't have enough outreach, or my existing base changed. And he just had gotten to a point where he had changed enough that he could actually use my service. And so even though you think you can't see those people, they're still there. That was the reminder for me, is that the work that I'm doing right now, he was the perfect fit for, but he didn't come out until he was ready either. So sometimes the people that are waiting for you are just growing, even though you don't think they're your client, but they're still in the aura field of who you are. A lot of times also underperforming in work is just trauma or depression. I happen to live in Minnesota, and many of you live in Minnesota, that we have, 6 months under darkness here. So it's easy to have winter depression. It's easy to have a season that you are not feeling it. But it may also be other trauma. The other thing that I see a lot of is that people are trying to do someone else's truth as their strategic planning, that they hire a business planner that has all these other ideas and this is the only way to do it, but that's not actually your truth and your way. So it won't work if you're doing someone else's truth. You have to find your own truth in your own strategic planning. And that's why a good strategist understands that the strategy is only as good as the person implementing it. So the person implementing it, and it's not as good as the person, it's as good as the person's ability to implement. So if it's something they don't understand, it's not going to go. If it's something they don't like to do, it's not going to go. If it's something that they don't feel attached to, it's not going to go. So look for your own truth in your strategic planning. And sometimes the strategic planning for people just starts out with, some toast and a list and a minute in the morning. So think about that as, what are the top reasons that you're underperforming? Are you not actually putting a system together and following through on it? Some people have real weak financial management, that they just buy things that they don't need, or they don't focus on the things that actually bring them profit. We see this a lot in people that don't invest in ads or advertising, that it's really hard to grow your outreach if you're not advertising. So if you have a zero advertising budget, you may want to change that. And you may want to change that in some other way. So having zero times zero times zero times zero is still zero. So you can't invest zero and expect a number to come out the other side. It just doesn't work. So when we look at financial management, it is also to say, are we investing back into our business, and exactly what ways are we doing that? Overwhelm, sometimes I'm just trapped. I just feel like, oh gosh, there's too much to do. I can't get through the day. I don't have a lot of those days anymore, but I remember when it felt overwhelming, that there were so many tasks to be done, and all I could look at was the list of things that weren't done. And for those of you who have come into the 12-week year or into the accountability groups in general, it's really helpful. Tactics are really good to just look at that. Tactics, the way I explain it when we're doing the 12-week year is for however much time it takes you to brush your teeth, right? And hopefully you're a good brusher, right? So most people sing happy birthday, right? Happy birthday to me, happy birthday, happy smiley face, me, yeah, right? Like it's not that long to brush your teeth to the happy birthday song, right? So when you think about that amount of time, that's a tactic. So when you're looking at tactics to put in, you're looking for things you can kind of sneak into your morning, the first thing out that's about the time that it takes you to brush your teeth. So that might be, for some people, that's a social media post. For some people, that is a phone call, that's a text, that's something that is going to get their system working out. For those of you who also may have gone through the small business cohort, then you would have learned the concept mise en place. So everything in place, and what mise en place is, right, how do chefs solve this problem? Is that they put all of their tasks that can work in the background on the oven first. So they get their soups and stews working before they start slicing and dicing in their prep, right? And a lot of us go, oh gosh, I got to slice and dice all the stuff, right? This is what has to get done, as opposed to going, okay, let me put this stuff in the background that can work in the background. So sometimes
That's brilliant.
Isn't it brilliant? Yeah,
Holy crap.
mise en place is, it makes everything go. So for those of us who are working at home, it's like why you would put in a load of laundry before you have breakfast, right? It's why you load up the crock pot and throw it in there, right? It's that it can cook so that when you come home, it's dinner. So mise en place is another tool to kind of manage overwhelm. So a lot of times it's just inefficient operations. Many times people are feeling disjointed because they're not grouping tasks. So for those of you who had rapid planning method, RPM, rapid planning method is about efficiency. It's saying, let me put all the tasks on a list and then let me group this tasks of lists together so that I understand how I can have more of them done at one time. So if I'm going through images as the task for my social media, I'm going to go through them, not just for LinkedIn, I'm going to go through them for my Facebook or my TikTok or my Instagram, or I'm going to go through them as my newsletter. You know, what is that, right? The other thing is that you want to, in inefficient operations, so there's the rapid planning method, that's Tony Robbins. So RPM, you can always just look up RPM, Tony Robbins. And we have that in other videos. But inefficient operations are when you're jumping from random ass thing to random ass thing, that you're just popping around like popcorn. And it's saying, no, let me put in this grouping of things that are naturally fitting together. So if I'm at a photo shoot, I have to do photo shoot items, right? If I'm at my desk, I have to do desk items. If I'm out in the world, I have to do out in the world items. So I've seen people do their RPMs in a lot of ways. And sometimes it is for those people who have maybe a little ADHD and they can't sit at their desk every day, all of the time. If I am forced to sit at my desk every day for 7 days in a week, I feel like I want to chew my leg off, right? That I feel chained, like I will chew the desk leg off before, like, get me out of here, right? So sometimes people will put in a series of tasks that are around, I call it the adventure tasks. They're adventure tasks because I'm getting into a car and I'm going somewhere. So like, what are the adventure tasks that I can put together so I can go to the bank, I can go pick up the sample, I can, you know, do something else. So sometimes we just need adventure tasks. But understanding, when we look at operations in general, if operations are where you are struggling, there's a difference between time management and task management. And what I would say is that most people who have self-employment actually understand time management really well because they get paid for their time. Whereas task management, boy, does that take a lot more to get your head around, because that requires lists, that requires updating, that requires that solid formation of thought, and it requires the first set of decision making in the day. So it is very, very interesting. The other thing is that in inefficient operations, it is, so there's a huge body of knowledge that actually came out of Carlson School of Management here, which is that we have not been trained to leave ourselves a note as to how to pick up the next day. So if we actually leave ourselves a note at the very end of our day to say, here are the things that I have to hit tomorrow morning, as like, here are the things that have to pick up, your brain can attach to yesterday's knowledge a lot faster if it has a reminder note. So if I'm finishing a case and I have these 3 things open, it allows you to, and you'll get good at writing that task because you are going back to the mindset you were in when you were in the flow state of yesterday. But when you come at it the next day and you're not in that flow state, you don't actually know what you were doing. So you were actually in kind of like a magical bubble of getting things done, of thriving, but you were maybe interrupted. And it's really learning to go, oh, I'm in flow state, I'm being interrupted. I have to write down what my thoughts are on this so that I can come back to it. And this note is my ticket back to my flow state. So it's a powerful body of knowledge. And that research team has had 20 some years doing that research. So it's a very intriguing piece. And it was for somebody who has taught business and how to be more productive. That tip came to me just this last year. And after talking to her, it really was a tool that I went, wow, there's something I can utilize. And so sometimes I will just do it the night before because you'd be surprised at how much, if you just sleep, if you just go to sleep and you wake up the next day, like yesterday is like gone. It is so gone. So I have to kind of come back to this note that just sometimes it's something as simple as, so now I have, Santa brought me some mushrooms. So, and not magical mushrooms, just mushrooms that you eat. It's a kit, but I have to spray them twice a day. So I have to write myself a note. So for the last week, I've had to write myself a note. It's the same note. I just put it up there, but I'm dyslexic. So instead of saying the word spray, I forgot the R. So it just says spay. So instead of fixing it, it makes it funny to just remind myself of my dyslexic self that I still need that note. And if you are a visual performer, what that means is that you see something and then that is the cue for you to actually do a task, right? That's a visual performer. I see this cue and that's when I act. When you see stage performers, that's what they're doing. They're looking for the cue. So think of it like a cue card that says, get into this item. If you've ever, so I'll give you a very visual reminder from your childhood, and I'll just start singing it for you for understanding a visual cue, because you'll all get there, right? Put your left foot in, put your left foot out, put your left foot in, and you shake it all about, right? We all know the hokey pokey, right? It is in our world. And that is the basis of that science, right? You just get yourself back into cue, and that's how everyone can come into the hokey pokey, right? And so your brain goes back to your original flow state. So another way that people are or businesses are underperforming may be a poor deliverable. It may be that it's understanding the deliverable. Is it not coming in one piece? Is it coming in too many little parts? Is it not usable? What is the deliverable? Is the deliverable needing a little bit of zhuzhing? A lot of times, and I will tell you, this one right here is actually for female entrepreneurs, for mompreneurs in general. This is the number one, is parenting or family health crises. We see a lot of people who are self-employed when there's a family crisis or a health crisis or a change in a health profile, we see that business really struggle. And we see that business struggle because that individual just needs more resourcing. They're either under-resourced or they're worrying. Sometimes there's not enough sales. That's actually an easy one to repair because where we started is just not enough outreach. Low profit and no reinvestment plan. A lot of times that just means that something is underpriced. or there's just a lack of innovation or adaptability. Sometimes people really do get tapped out of their own ideas. And it's not that they don't have any new ideas, it's that the pattern in which they're making all those ideas is the same. So they are stuck in their own loop. If you've ever just like maybe taken a weekend and just felt so revitalized and so creative because we could just rewire all your synapses, like the best investment a lot of times that I can make for a business owner is to say, take 2 days and fly to a city you don't know and spend your time getting lost in something delicious. Eat delicious food, surround yourself with beautiful things and new ideas, and just truly Windex out your mind, right? Clear off what's there. And everyone comes back and goes, oh, wow, yeah, it feels like it's been decobwebbed. So I would think about, again, right, what we talked about is not sugarcoating it, but looking at yourself with loving eyes to really, from that prosperity mindset, it is to say, you are your own helper friend. And it's to say, let me look at loving eyes and look at some of these reasons. Now, I just gave you reasons from my own life. I didn't chat GPT this. This is just, right, here you go. But when I think about the things that I suffer through and the things that I've seen 25 years of other businesses suffer through, they're very similar. And so if it's just revenue, that's an easy one. That money is the easiest thing to fix. Now, for those of you who don't recognize this dog, this is Nigel, our new little love affair at my house. But loving dominion. So this is where, again, we've talked about this in other ways. There are other videos on loving dominion, but you as a leader, this is the conversation I have with executive teams about understanding that you as a leader in all aspects of your life, you are leading your dominion, right? This is your universe. This is your world. And how are you going to rule over that dominion? How are you going to get people to kind of do the things that they do? And so that means that you are not just the ruler. It means that you're the lawmaker and the firekeeper and the cleaner upper and all of those things, right? It's to say, hey, these are the rules of the dominion. These are the things that I want to have happen. And this is my own sacred journey. This is the sacred journey that I want for my love affair, for my parenting, for my relationships, for my creative output, that I rule that with a loving intent. So when we talk about loving dominion, it is to really look at all of that in loving eyes. And to remember that, I think a lot of times people forget, it's easy to say, oh, I got to set boundaries, or I'm the queen of this. But it is that you are the firekeeper. And we forget that we are the firekeeper, that we have to bring in new wood. We have to bring in new materials. We have to bring in new things. And we have to keep feeding that fire. And that fire is our relationships. That's inviting people to the fire. That's doing lots of things. But being a firekeeper is really a nuance in how we run our business. And the thing I remind everyone is that this is a beautiful and a sacred journey. It is yours. It is yours. You get to have this time. For those of you who didn't have to get up and try to get through traffic and get downtown and into an office and whatever, or that you could just sit and brush your teeth as long as you wanted, right? That you didn't have, the call I had before I taught this class, I had a woman arguing with her teenage daughter, who has 2 brand new babies, and they're both screaming, and they're arguing over a WIC appointment. And they're having a conversation, and there's 3 dogs go to, right? You didn't have that life, right? You didn't have that craziness of the day. So again, think about what is going well in your life. And so being that firekeeper and keeping your integrity and your grace through all the chaos that's there, these are the lives that we build. And so one of the things that I do a lot of is try to give people tools so that they can connect, they can find efficiency, but they can find their own prosperous mindset. And so you're in one of them, right? NW2. We have, this is the Pebble method. For those of you who may have come to that class, it is really quite simple. It is where you literally have kind of a bowl of pebbles. When we're teaching people how to run, this is actually how we teach them to run, from nothing to something. So each of these pebbles would represent, if you're learning to run, you only have to run for 30 seconds. And our first goal is to get 8 pebbles. So I'll put them in their hand and I'll be like, okay, 30-second interval, right? You get a minute off, 30 seconds on, a minute off, 30 seconds on. You can do anything for 30 seconds. You can do a burpee, you can do whatever. So when we're trying to strength build someone to be able to sprint or something else, we use the Pebble method. And then they get all these rocks in their pocket. Great. When we're doing outside stuff, it's just another tool to go, why are you putting this pile of rocks in my hand? Well, because this is how many you're going to do. So sometimes the Pebble method we also use on tasks we don't really enjoy doing, but then you get this visual representation in your hand of, yeah, I didn't do nothing. And that, a lot of times I will have people take a picture of themselves with their pebbles so that they can go, yes, I did this many today. For those of you who are fancy pants, then you have, of course, fancy rocks and things like that. People do it in all different ways. So the Pebble method I really enjoy because it is a visual reminder, and then we can take a photograph of it, and then we can see reminder, 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 reminder. We also use the 12-week year. That's another tool that I brought another round in this next season. Vision boarding is another one. Cool person lunch, right? Getting together with other people just so they know your name. You have to really think about how many new people you need to meet. If you're trying to grow your business, I remember in class, we had someone who took the challenge, which is that they had to meet 10 people a day. And he's like, oh, that's your challenge? I'm going to double it. So he's like, I'm going to meet 20 new people a day. And I'm like, okay, great. And so for those of you who have ever met my friend VJ, he doesn't, the laugh. I was waiting for Janet's laugh right there, right? 20 people a day, I'm in, right? So when you are thinking about, if you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to grow your reach, if you're trying to do that, you actually have to meet new people. And the other thing is YouTube. YouTube is filled with so many great organizational tools that somebody has thought out and tried. So I think one of the things that I like about the 12-week year is that there's so many people who did that book, who did that system. The same with Tony Robbins, with RPM, the same with Tiago Forte's work, that the second brain, that these are concepts that are in our thought process, and a lot of people have tried them, so you can hear how other people are doing it. So if you are looking to up-level your own skills, sometimes YouTube is just the answer for you. And especially if you are kind of getting bogged down with, like, man, I'm not performing, or this business isn't earning, or whatever is the terminology you're giving yourself. It is to say shifting your perspective is crucial. You want a new perspective, and you want new language, and you want to really keep that prosperity mindset. And so when we talk about that, defining your prosperity mindset and its benefits, identifying your limiting beliefs, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but adopting a growth mindset, because you have to navigate challenges. If you're having trouble in your business, you're having a challenge. And that's a blessing, that we want challenges, because that's how you're going to get greater and better and more delicious. So challenge is great. And when you're looking at defining prosperity in what you're doing, the question I always ask is, what is working? So what you want to do is like, just like we started at the beginning of like, what are the top 10 things that went well for me last year? Those are outcomes, right? But now I'm really looking at what is working. What are the systems and the things in my day that is working? I'll use one from Janet's, is that she has a piece of technology that times how often her mouse is moving, right? So that she knows how much time she's putting in because she doesn't have to track it. She asks technology to do that on her behalf. So for many of you, technology is working. Janet, do you want to respond to that?
Yes.
As a tool?
Could you
Yes.
tell I was going like, "Wah!" I
Yes.
actually am trying out new ones. So last year, my goal was to update all my software and learn all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Did it, new hardware, nor software. Timers don't work. And so I'm trying out new ones because my old faithful doesn't work.
Right. So you have to
So
upgrade no matter what.
yeah, it's kind of like the log roll, or like where you're in the
Right.
river on the log, and and sometimes you have to jump to a new log.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Because that one's not going to spin anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you want to get those hours. Well, I'm going to wait till the recap at the end.
Oh, and the hours. Oh, no, you go ahead and tell us what.
Okay. So, well, so I did the restart weekend. In end of September, I realized I had Delta certificates. They expire at the end of this year, so they expired, or you have to book it. And so I was like, why am I not going to my sister's 60th birthday in San Diego? I haven't been there since her 50th, and she's worked for 6 months on voice lessons to sing with her husband's band. So we went, and seeing the seals and sea lions and just
Yeah.
the desert and all that. And I came back and worked like crazy after that. I felt like I went to another planet because San Diego's so different than anywhere
So
I've
delicious.
been. And then I came back and worked like crazy, and I had that timer going, and I hand wrote.
Mhm.
Well, maybe I had to handwrite my hours, but it was more than I thought. So I want to kind of do two timing things because I don't want to cheat myself. It's very easy for me to cheat myself and with hours and income. So to be
Yeah.
generous. So I want to be with reality, technology helping me being with reality.
And the other thing that's interesting about high achievers and timers is they don't want to acknowledge that they're slow. So they will shortcut themselves on time. And it's about it's got this weird little twist in it of, no, my ideal state is that I can do this task in this amount of time. So they will cut themselves short because they want to claim that time. And
I wonder, I think other people would, or there's the other mentality, like they would think this will only take 10 minutes. Like, let's say
sure,
we're getting our car washed. I think it would only take 10 minutes I've never had my car detailed because I've done it, but I think it will take only 10 minutes for them to
yeah,
detail my whole car.
yeah.
It's like, no, well,
I I can't do anything in 10 minutes. I do not, I don't, whatever that is, like, if it's an experience and crazy things are happening, sure. But like, if I'm doing a task and I think I can do it in 10, I've just given that up. I don't even have 10-minute tasks, that I just will take them if I can win that much, but yeah, it's fun. Yes, thank you for that. So we also call it the buzzkill list, right? So when you start to think about what is working, then I would do the opposite side. What's the thing that comes in and just kills your mojo? And the buzzkill list for me is actually dinner time, right? That's my flow state is from 4 to 7 p.m. And that's also the time that everyone else in my family is coming home from school, they're having dinner, they're doing all these other things, right? So I would start to look at, again, we've talked about life force energy in past classes. right? When are you magical anyway? So what I had to do for my buzzkill list is I had to kind of go, look, I have to have one day a week that I'm not expected home for dinner, that I can work late, that I can stay in my flow, and I can utilize that time. And if I get that full time and can kind of like eat at my desk from 4 o'clock, that I can actually work till 11 p.m. and stay in that flow state for a long time, or I can stay till 7 or 9 or something. So sometimes I just need like a night away from my regular life to do my creative intended, my creative work. And sometimes that creative work is doing something really silly, like, figuring something out at Home Depot, right? Because sometimes I have random things to build that need physical product. But, think about what that is. When we talk about identifying limiting beliefs and replacing them with empowering ones, boy, does that sound like it's right out of, gobbledygook. But it is, when I look at those limiting beliefs, I go back to the mushroom question. So I have a secret for you that will fix this. So, and it's simple, and it's my mushroom secret. But when we are looking at limiting beliefs, sometimes we don't actually know them because they're hiding in plain sight. So when we look at what are the things that are limiting you, if I knew that, I'd probably move past them. But because I look at them every day, I don't know why that is, right? So I just remind everyone that I have this magic mushroom question, which is, what would this look like if it was easy? And, what would my day look like if it was easy to earn 2,500 in a day, right? What would that look like? What would it look like? And the magic mushroom question just is a way for you to not have to actually physically do mushrooms, but to be able to just go, what would it look like if it was easy? And it just gives your mind another way to experience the equation. And that's actually when I identify so many things. And a lot of times it's that I can't, a lot of times in business owners, it's that they think they can't afford something. I can't afford an assistant. I can't afford a whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what if it were easy? Right. And so from the easy perspective, it is, well, let's get them on billable hours instantly. and then they'll pay for themselves. This is how every lawyer that I've ever worked with, that I go, you need a paralegal. They're like, I have no idea how to do a paralegal. I said, well, let me show you how to do that. That is that we bill them out. And once you start billing them out, the work just gets done. And we can get a high, for a dentist's office, for a hygienist, for most things, if we just put them on the tasks that are the most money making, they just do it. For people who have appointments, it's just making sure your appointments are booked, right? So think about the magic mushroom question. And if you have a new notebook and you're doing your notebook, I would literally draw a big mushroom on a page and think about all of the mushroom questions that you have. And just go, what's my magic mushroom questions? And, what would it look like? And it brings you to a new way of solving. One of the other things about kind of trudging forward differently is looking at what are the existing resources. We've done this in the past where we've talked about this from technology, assessing your current resources and strengths, looking at the untapped potential in the business and the strategies for using the most of existing resources. So this is another one, like you can always take a picture, you can always take a screenshot of anything that we're doing to go, oh, I want to remember that later. Because you're going to get the video, but you're not going to get the video for a little while. So you can always just take a screenshot. But when we look at that idea of identifying untapped potential within the business, one of the things that I remind people about is this one, which is it's a who question, not a how question. A lot of times, exactly like the friend that called me from years ago, and he was horrified the other day when I was talking to him on the phone. He was horrified. He goes, well, and somehow it came to our age. And then he goes, oh my gosh, you must have been 18 when I met you. And I went, why, yes, I was. But he's like, oh my gosh. And I said, I didn't, he was, I don't know, he's like 5 years older than me. And, so I'm sure that 18, now he's, he's over 60. So he's like, oh my gosh, right? But again, right, in his questioning, in his mushroom questioning, right, he was like, I need somebody, who can I call? Who would know the answers to these things, right? And he pulled out somebody he hadn't talked to in 20 years. So, you will find that there's untapped potential in what you have. So I would look at it as a who question, not a how question. How can I get more out of this? No, who will know more on this subject? Who can pass my name along? Who can be handing out my card? Right? Who can benefit from me serving their people? Right? So start thinking about who questions and not how questions when you're at that point. And then the strategies for using existing resources. We have so many resources, and I'll give you an example from my refrigerator. Now, many of you may use things like root vegetables and they just sort of die in your refrigerator. Those might be carrots, those might be potatoes, those might be onions, those might be a lot of things. And a lot of times we don't see those as a star player. They're just things that we hang on to in the bottom, that we ignore, that, we pull them out when we need them, but we don't really use them as the showcase. So it's really looking at some of these other tools and saying, how can this be a primary resource, right? How can carrots be amazing, right? If you've ever had gingered carrots, it changes your whole view of what is carrots, right? If you've ever had, broccoli in great sauce, right? This is why, right? This is why cheesemakers put cheese on top of broccoli, right? Because cheese makes everything work. It just makes everything work. So these are resources that are laying around, but again, we aren't maximizing them. We aren't ever putting carrots as our showcase. We aren't necessarily going, oh, wow, I didn't know I could make an apple this great. One of the things that you may have heard from me before is the conversation around just a crummy sandwich, right? That I will pack myself a crummy sandwich every day when I have to go into the office. Always hoping for a better offer, by the way. I am always hoping for a better offer. And there's enough people in my office that don't have a crummy sandwich that would take a crummy sandwich. And I'm willing to eat a day old crummy sandwich. So if I don't eat it that day and I get a better offer, I can take it. But if I have to just stay focused and at my desk, I have a crummy sandwich and I'm not hungry. So suddenly I can use the resource of me differently. So sometimes it's just saying, look, what are the things that I can put into place here that will help me maximize my existing resource? And when we have people that have to really focus in, right? This is why vending machines were put into offices. It's because people having access to a snack made them stay working. And there's a lot of interesting studies on snacking and working. So think about using your existing resources. If your existing resources that you have a beautiful table, if your existing resources you have light, if your existing resources you have all these programs, learn them, learn new things about them, learn how to use those tools differently. Exactly what Janet was, right? So she's like, I have to upgrade all my technology. So let me get into the flow state and just say, this is my paradigm, I'm going to change it. So, looking at those tools and the technologies that you're doing, and learning to align your tools differently. Even now, you had a system, that system now stopped working, right? So like Janet's story of she had a way to time, then it didn't time anymore. Now she's like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm still shorting myself. right? So it's saying I have to re-identify, I have to go back and look at what's there, and I have to look at how do I use alternate applications of the tools I'm already using, or I already know how to do that. So, you know, it's taking a look at how you're using things. I'll give you a really boring example because I have something called an iPhone. And the iPhone has something that is called a portrait mode, but a lot of times I'll have somebody with me so that she'll show one face and not the other or whatever. But you can go back into portrait mode, you can go into edit, and you can touch your finger somewhere else on the picture and it'll readjust the portrait mode. So I can take one picture of a family in portrait mode and I can highlight a new face and make it into many different pictures. So using your technology different, it's learning something new about what you're using all the time. So for those of you who are using Square, it also has the option for you to have a calendar inside of it. It has a booking provision, but it also has an outreach provision. So the tools that you have, the organizations that are building your tools are constantly striving to keep up. So they're going to be giving you new optimization tools all of the time. And with AI exploding, the volcano of new tasks that are able to be happening, like TaskRabbit, that explosion of tools will really work for you to have new integration points. So look at the tools that you have and just take a minute to kind of take a date with them. And that's how I would treat it, is I would just go, I'm just going to go on a date with my calendar. And I'm just going to learn all the other things that my calendar does. So if you have, right, so calendars have updated their scheduling tools that they will now, you know, I need this to come on the same day every week for 12 weeks, right? How can I do that? So everything is upgrading. Every tool that you have is actively upgrading because they have to stay alive. But there's this enormous amount of technology that is birthing forward that is allowing people to build on the back end of their products. So they're going to be able to roll out more stuff. So what that means is the more that machines learn how to write code, the faster those products are going to be built in the marketplace, because they don't have to have a human hacking out that code. They have a machine that can hack out that code 24/7. So they will build, so there'll be many, many more products coming to market in technology. There'll be many, many, many upgrades into every form of technology that you have in the next 12 to 24 months. You will see entire new items. If you've noticed the craziness of, even if you go to McDonald's, the first question, you don't have a person answer at McDonald's anymore if you go through the drive-through. If you go through the drive-through at McDonald's, it'll say, "Hi, are you ordering from our app today?" It's a pre-recorded voice that comes on before another person. So the minute that that car comes in, there's a voice there. There is not even a second. And then you are already answering the voice before the person even shows up. And that's
the
to get
voice.
into the line.
Does the voice have that old sound of a bad mic? Hello, hello, can I help
wish.
you today?
Right? Hello, meal 5. Pull ahead, door 2. But you're going to see everyone have an app. You're going to have everything have rewards. The largest change that you're having from blockchain math on the back end and Web 3D, right? That the largest change you're having is that machines can write code so fast and make other codes talk to each other that you're going to see everything have an app. So you'll end up with all of these apps on your phone that are tracking you differently. And that's because now the business can have a direct line. It's so, right, DTC, direct to consumer. Starbucks, I mean, Starbucks invested in this much earlier than everyone else. And during the pandemic, it saved them. Because you could order from your app and you could pick up outside, right? Panera, same thing, right? That they're like, just order it on the app, here you go. If you go into a fast food restaurant in a major space, you don't even have a person at the window anymore. Every new McDonald's is built, every new major fast food chain in like a airport or something like that, they don't even want you to talk to a person at the counter. They want you to interface with a kiosk. Order your stuff, get your name, here you go. Because the efficiency of that, even if you shopped at somewhere called Aldi, Aldi has taken out 3/4 of their human lanes and put in non-human lanes. Because 6 people running a small order, even at a slow speed, is still faster than 1 person working like crazy. So we're going to look at technology. It's going to increase greatly. It is breathtaking how many more things are happening with tech. And so when you're starting to look at what you have, everything you have will become better, crisper, brighter, more, it'll have more memory. It'll have more ability to help you. If you've ever wondered, when's the last time I went to the dentist? You can search your calendar and with your dentist's name, it'll tell you every dentist appointment you had since you bought the calendar. So online tools are really, really coming on board, and you're able to share a file in an invite now. You're able to say, here's what we're working on. So efficiency models are changing, and you're going to see a whole new wave of efficiency coming for you. And I think that's powerful. And why that's powerful is because you get to now look at alternate applications in your existing tools. So you can take a comfort level. If you've ever noticed somebody who's beholden to their type of phone, right? Because you have people who are Android, and those Android lovers, you will not get them to change because they understand the basic application of their existing tools. They don't want to change. They will gladly go with whatever the tool is that they're the most comfortable with, and they'll build other applications on top of that. So whatever is your existing tool, your tool's gonna get bigger. And so you get to look at other applications, and sometimes what's fascinating is when people just dismiss all other applications because they want the one that they want, and that's because of their comfort level, that I know how to work that, right? People who work in Microsoft are very comfortable in Microsoft. People who work in Apple are very comfortable in Apple. People who are, there are still people who use Linux, right? Open source, right? So, I mean, you think about how many times you look at somebody and you go, oh my gosh, is there still a Yahoo account? What was that, right? Right? Because they won't change. That's why Google is so big, because they know that once somebody's comfortable in their format, they can just keep upgrading and keep their main customer base. So going back to the year, a lot of people are really looking at their sales channels. So I would look at your sales channel. This picture here is this person who is a paper creator, and she takes paper and makes little folded boxes. I couldn't believe it. And by the way, that little tiny folded box of paper that she makes, she sells these for $12, of which I am happy to pay because it's so insanely cute when you hold it in your hand. So when you are looking at, could you make a living making little paper boxes with a rabbit head on them? The answer is yes. If you have a way to get them out into the marketplace. And what is very interesting is that if she sets them somewhere and someone can actually interface with them and pick them up and see how incredibly intricate they are, or interesting, or that they have a feel to them, she'll sell them all out instantly. Whereas if she sells them on a picture on a flat screen, they take forever to sell. So she stopped selling on Etsy, except to her regular clients. So she ended up doing like another way to showcase her work. So like doing a walkthrough or other things that some products you have to see and feel. And so when you are doing something like selling a house, right? We saw Sandy, who's in this group. Sandy started telling the story about the house, that seeing it in a flat screen isn't the same as watching us walk through that space, that having another piece. So one of the things that I want you to think about is your current channels and their effectiveness. Is it effective to meet with someone when you're in all of those creative fibers, right? So she also does a class. So she brings all of these different things together, and suddenly now you're like, oh, I can make this all work. But she has to be in a store that has all of the things that she needs. So many times she needs new items and she needs vintage items. So she just says, look, let's do this with vintage people, because they understand the value of little ribbons from 1950 being transported into our life today, right? That there's a revitalization that's in there. So when you're thinking about your sales channel, I want you to think about it a little bit differently. I want you to think about it as an innovative approach, that you can revitalize what you have and the things that will make them revitalize. This is why I love field trips. This is why I love field trips. So if you're going to kind of look at how do we get 20 people interested in what's the new paint thing, is let's invite everybody to the paint store. And then leveraging your digital assets. If you are not using social media, you have to rethink that, because it is the fastest way for people to take in your information, because they're on the go. They're moving. That if you have noticed your own life, you're a moving target. Getting information to you personally is incredibly difficult, because all of us are doing 10 things at one time. And Kathy's logging in for another thing. So this is a perfect example. Are we gonna go in the car with you next?
Yes.
See, we knew it. That's very exciting because you look very fancy today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Try.
So
Mm.
leveraging.
You always look great though.
You do? Yeah, you do always look great.
You're so sweet. Thanks, ladies.
Okay, well, we'll see you in the car. So digital formats, right? Digital platforms. You want to look at, we have other things that I've created on that, but digital format has changed drastically. And, everything was short, right? Everybody created in a medium format, and then they went to short, and then a bunch of renegades went to long form, and now we're seeing long form being the most desirable tool for everyone because they're podcasting. And what is interesting is that a lot of the credit for the original podcasting concept actually came out of poetry and reading poetry. And it's an interesting piece. The New York Times just did an article on this. So if you want to go back and find that little piece of edit, it's about two young ladies who recorded a poet, and they became a record company that specifically recorded artists, poets reading their work. And that is what kind of, as the theorists have gone back, they believe that is actually the original conversation of where did podcasts start. That's their theory anyway. But increased visibility, you want to be able to find out how to be visible to your people. And that is this one where I just go, right, how are you going to tell your story in a digital format? And what is that look? And we have a lot of conversation on that. So this is where, if this is your check mark, go back to the other videos. That there are a lot of videos on storytelling, and on storytelling that is prosperity based. So, right, it's really loving your community in a way that's very uniquely yours. And that's how you keep that prosperity mindset. One of the things that I remind people is that you want to think about your sales referrals and your channels. And if you took the class that we teach the STAR model in, that's really what I'm talking about, is that STAR model of how do you reverse the energy so you're not constantly putting energy out, that energy is actually flowing to you. So that's looking for those partners that are sending things to the middle of that star. So who is sending information in? And one of the funny parts of my life for me personally is my wedding day. We had a huge vat of people that were coming, and a lot of people thought they knew me, but they only knew me in their little section of my life. So they may have known me from teaching, or they may have known me from working in the community, or they may have known me as a financial advisor, or they may have known me as a speaker, or they may have known me as teaching high school. So when they all came together at my wedding there, and they found out they knew each other, like all these people knew each other at my wedding, and they're like, "What are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we know Mickey from work." And they're like, "What? I know Mickey from work." Oh, yeah. So it was this crazy moment where all these people could go, "Oh yeah, I know that person." And if you've ever worked on Project ELF with me, when we did ELF for 18 years, right, you would see all of these people come together for one cause, and they would all come to the middle, right? It wasn't us asking. It was us asking and everyone bringing to the middle for one cause. So when you think about your sales channel, you want to think about why someone's sending you that. What is the thing that you solve? And bringing that so that they can hand it out. One of the things that I remind people is that even if you don't feel like you have a lot of growth, you still have to plan for it. It can still happen. That if you're not planning for growth, you should, because growth is going to happen. There's no one that comes to class, there's no one that watches these videos that isn't looking to grow. And so you have to plan for growth, even if you feel a little crummy about it. So think about, right, setting some realistic goals and objectives, developing a comprehensive and strategic plan. That's why I love those accountability groups. That's why this is a mastermind, because all of us are smarter when we're together. And it's creating that long-term roadmap, because you're already, like, if you knew, I don't think that any of us knew when we started a business that we'd still be here, right? Like, it's hard to go, gosh, I think I've spent 30 years doing this, right? I didn't know that was going to happen. You can't conceive that your life would continue to grow in the same fashion. So, and Janet, I see you thinking that through, because you've been doing your business. How long has Mills Design been here?
27 years, but
Right.
mostly doing one project. So I'm looking at the lessons here.
Yes, right? That we just keep expanding, right? You just keep getting better at it. But we didn't know that that was our plan, right? When you first picked up that project, could you have even conceived of someone saying, you'll be doing this for the next 27 years?
Technology will change, everything else will fold, but because you did it well, yours will keep going, and your audience is aged. And
Yeah.
so they still like it. It's kind of a fluke. Like my kids at one point, who aren't kids anymore, are like, how are you still existing? Because,
Right.
yeah, but
Right. Because everybody still likes beautiful gardens.
yeah, and like your slides, if you do it well, that's the key. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Right. Right. They're fun to do. They're fun to do. Yes. It's fun to have pictures, right? And you're a good photographer. So when you're thinking about that, when you're thinking about setting goals, what I would think about is even the things that aren't blooming yet, is really looking at your goals and objectives, even if it's not blooming yet. So you don't feel like it has to already be this vibrant bouquet of flowers to be able to be a valuable item in the garden. sometimes it is just something that is still kind of making its way across your mind. And so think about the things that are very interesting to you, that are seeds you may have planted, they just haven't fruited yet. So again, what's working right now in your thought process, in your ideas, in the things that you're still interested in, even if it's not in full bloom. So when we look at those goal settings, I would reach towards the things that haven't had a full evolutionary cycle, but they have a little bit of charm, a little bit of delight. They're still compelling, and they have some intrigue in them. And those are those little notes that go, move, right? Move towards me, come near me, pick me up, right? Things that say, pick me up, touch me. If they have a little bit of a hypnotic nature, they're probably still the right answer for you. One of the biggest lessons I remind people about in businesses that have underperformance is you actually have to do the opposite of what is natural. And that is paying attention to the root and not the fruit. So you have to understand that the root makes the fruit, right? The root of what you're doing every day fruits something. And so many times we are looking at the fruit goal. I want it to look like this. Here is the outcome. Yes, you have to know that outcome, but we have to pay attention to the root, to the small tasks that are every day. We can't put in a year. In an underperforming business, we do not do a 1-year plan. We put an idea in what we want for a 1-year plan, but we focus in much tighter, much tighter, much tighter. And we focus on those root items, that fruit specific items. How do we grow the root of the, and not the fruit? And that means going back to these daily task items that lead to cash flow. Many people, or whatever the problem is, a lot of people are coming into this class because they have a cash flow stagnation. And cash flow is actually the easiest thing to fix in a business. And if cash flow is your only problem, no worries. That's the easiest one to fix, because it's going back to these daily tasks that lead to cash flow. And it's doing those tasks. So underperformance always goes back to daily tasks. And we are not looking at a 1-year plan, we're looking at the week. And we're really focusing in very small. What are the base things in that business that we can do? And then based on those little smaller tasks, then we start looking at this wider roadmap, right? And that wider roadmap, again, I look at it as a garden. Some parts of it are overgrowing. Some parts need to be ripped out. Some parts need to be the other thing. And that's why we call loving dominion, right? Life is a sweet garden called loving dominion, that you are ruling over all of this cast of characters in your life. And some of them are the daisies to the left or to the right. And some of them are, larkspur or this or that or whatever, that you have this garden of your life. And I would look at it, and I would look at what makes it successful. And what makes a great garden successful is not the plants, it's the gardener. And that gardener focusing in on their soil and on the very basics. If you look at how a gardener looks at their garden, they start with the soil. They start with the water. They start with these very daily tasks. You can't have a beautiful garden without a task list. And it goes back to exactly what I was saying when we go. It's the daily tasks. It's paying attention to the root, not the fruit, right? So you have to think about, this is loving dominion. This is your garden of life. This is your sacred commitment. This is the magic that you get to create. And one of the other things that I think about when we're doing this is I would look at how you share your resources. Because what is interesting about nature is that it has a system to share resources, right? If you've ever had, we call them volunteer plants. We have a lot of volunteer plants that show up in the garden. And that is because a bird has moved them, or a seed has gone, or the wind has done this, right? I would look at other resources. The wind can blow in so many great people into your life by just going to a different meeting, by just meeting new people. So think about that prosperity mindset is that there are additional resources out there and that you can pick them. So my words of advice going forward are, I would just pick 3 things to move forward on. You don't need more than 3. So I would pick 3 things and I would pick them just for the first quarter. And then I would pick them so that you can work on them as a daily task. And then again, the concept from that garden is that you want to look at one plant that can yield many flowers. So one plant that can yield many flowers. You're going to focus in on the root of that plant. So if the root that you want is teaching, then look at, right, how can you teach? And you can have many, many flowers from that teaching mechanism. If your root is a speaking engagement, do that. If you're a lawyer, then do law. How do you do that? You have one plant that can yield many flowers. That is the first lesson of a great garden, is to have something that fruits regularly, but you focus in on the very basics of that. And then again, right, looking at those end experience. So the end experience goal, I love this from other cultures where they actually, whenever they're starting a new project, they start it and they actually have a party for what it's going to feel like when it's done. So they actually start, not with hopes and fears or all these other things, that they would start the experience as if they had already achieved it. So they could feel that feeling so they know what they're going for. And so when we look at that end experience goal is very different than a target. So a target, right? What's the target that I have for all of you, for all of us, right? That we have one target and in our lives, and that is to be well within, right? So every day I'm going to try to pull that arrow back and I'm going to try to hit that single target of how to be well within. But my goal may be how to be well within while I'm parenting, while I'm doing a business, while I'm teaching, while I'm doing this sort of thing, right? Those are the goals that are attached to that. But my target, right, is always to be well within. And that's the target I invite everybody to have in prosperity mindset is, right, your target every day is to, right, my target is to make sure my light is on, right? That I'm tuned in, that I understand who I am, and that this is the work that I'm here to do, and that I'm present for it. That's my target. That's how I'm well within. You will find yours. And that's what that notebook is for, where we started at the beginning of, here's the notebook of your life. And here's the notebook of where I'm going to grow in this space. So knowing your target versus your experience goal at the end. The experience goal at the end may be that you just want to have money in your retirement account at the end of the year. Your experience goal at the end might just be that I want to have enough money to go to Paris. It can be anything. That's yours to write. That's yours to write. So again, I remind people about the bubble. You got to stay in that little love bubble, the love bubble of your life. And that's that one word. That's that, if it's moxie, it's moxie. If it's spirited, it's spirited. If it's, showcasing, it's showcasing. But stay in your love bubble. And that's your piece. So I'm going to bring us back together. I think Kathy's in the car and Karen's on something else, but we're going to kind of talk about what's your takeaway today. And I will stop share. And here we go. All right. Janet, how were the flowers for you?
They were very good, but they also brought another aspect to class. And that is, I wonder if they were taken in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, some of them were.
Because I didn't recognize a lot of them. Or you just have a Mickey vision for seeing.
Oh, yeah. No, I would say, well, first of all, they're flowers from everywhere. I would say half of those flowers are from Lake Street.
Wow.
Yeah, from alleys.
So then you're
Lake
teaching
Street.
us how to see.
Yeah. I would say half of
Always.
those photos came from the back alleys off of Lake Street.
Okay.
And Cedar, Lake and Cedar. So yeah, because
Yeah,
that's
because
where
they
my
weren't
walk-
same old beauty. They were like, I was like, what?
right, right, yeah, yeah, no, no, some of them are from there, but yeah, the vast majority of those pictures I took this last summer, because when I take everybody to track, they run, I walk. So I walk the
Oh.
alleys for an hour every Thursday with my camera. Yeah, actually not that far from when, you tried to save my life at Kmart parking lot. Yeah, yeah.
So I think
So-
everybody who listens to this, different things will spark them, different things will resonate, and they'll have epiphanies on different things. But what I really enjoyed most were the fun things, and I made a little list. So sorry I haven't rehearsed this, but when you said adventure tasks, leave yourself a note on how to start the next day so you can get back to your flow state you were in the day before. Field trips, like you taking the pictures during the people running, a restart weekend. And it was like all the little fun things so that we can cancel out the income taxes are due, that kind of brain. Because the have to brain. And then I thought of a tangent, which is Martha Stewart had a calendar once. And I was like, this is not fair. Because my calendar's like, have to do this, have to do, it's recycling day, whatever. And her calendar's like, I must start the tomato seeds. I must deliver, I'm making this up, but cornbread to my neighbor. That's on her calendar. I'm like, that's not a thing. You can't put creative and fun things on your calendar. I saw this last year sometime, like, that's not, but now we should do that.
Yeah.
We should put yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I told the banker yesterday when I went to go see her, because I was giving her a tip. Every time I go in, this is a young girl who has done all of this stuff, and I love her. And so I give her an old lady tip. And so she waits for me to come in, and I go, I'm going to give you my old lady tip. And yesterday was a baking item. And I said, aren't you a baker? Don't you bake? And she's like, yeah. So I was explaining to her this King Arthur flour. And she's like, I just love it that you give me all this great stuff. Right. And so, yeah, adventures in banking.
Wait,
But-
you give her the ideas as a tip or a tangible tip?
Sometimes I'll bring her a physical thing, but I don't always know that she's there. But I'll think, what does Angela want? Right. So we're on Facebook together. So then I'll be like, I'll just messenger that to you. Is that the tip you want? And she'll be like, okay, great. Yeah.
I love that you're friends on Facebook with your banker. Like that's not a normal thing, just so you know. I love it,
Oh.
but it's not the average.
Yes. And we are both friends with my old banker who left. Yeah. So we often will talk about our old banker even. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so
been
always going beyond.
always go beyond. Kathy, what's your takeaway? There was a lot in here for you.
I think the biggest thing for me was that this idea of technology and AI, and although I've been using AI a little bit just here and there, because it's fun and why not, but that it's really not going anywhere, and that I need to be better at embracing it and letting it like I don't like going to the store and not talking to somebody.
Right.
I really enjoy the conversations that we have with the people, and so that part makes me feel sad.
Yeah.
But I need to find a way to embrace it, because you're right, it's not going anywhere.
But it's going to become, so when you look at the relationships that are here, we will have to create them in our own grouping, right? So like you won't get to just meet somebody at a party unless you go to a party, right? And you're not going to get a party invitation unless you actually have the party. And it's so few things that we have that will mix our friends up. And so I think what you'll see is the players that are coming next are people that can actually invite people to be together.
It's gonna be really hard for introverts, I think. But that aside, then reminding myself that if money is the problem, it's the least problem I have, and that's an easy thing to change. And right now it's not a problem, but it that's one of those things that I think ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And then I agree with Janet on the leave yourself a note to where you picked up, because I often don't stop working because I'm in that flow, that zone, and I know if I stop, I'll have a hard time picking it back up. Well, if I can just hurry up and finish it now, and I'll just hurry up and finish it now. Well, the problem is I do that, and then I put in 15 hours, and then I'm tired, and then I feel sometimes resentful, not necessarily of my job, but of the people that are needing things from me.
Yeah.
And so finding a way to have a stop and start point that seems a little bit more easy to pick back up and set back down.
What is interesting, and how they stumbled upon the research was actually from a writer, from a novelist, and that was his tool. And they found that so interesting. And she found that interesting, like as a young person going to college. And then she ended up having that be her master's thesis, and now brought it all the way forward. So like her whole adult life has been studying that one concept.
Wow.
And what is interesting for me as a start point from that is that you get really much better at writing notes to yourself. And if you look at Tiago Forte's work on the second brain, it's like leaving yourself a note or taking good enough notes so you can come back to it. But this is very different. This is saying, look, I got to get out of this. I got to go. Let me quick write down my thoughts on what I was thinking on this so that I can pick it back up. What it does, and why I would really, if I were going to take one thing away, I would really focus on that concept, because it magically opens the portal back up. So I don't know how it does it. That's the magic of our brain. But exactly like the hokey pokey, you just get back into the moves, right? You put your left foot in, you put your left foot on, right? You can't not just get into formation, and we all just do it.
Right. No, I love that, and I think that that's a way that one of the things that I'm focusing on this year is really trying hard to have better life balance on the busy times, so that this is sustainable, because that's one of the things that last year taught me, is that it's not this whole career isn't sustainable if I can't draw some better boundaries.
Yeah. So
and I think that's a really great way.
Right. There's your can, right? There's the word you need for the year is sustainability.
Yeah, that's actually because at the end of the day, if it's not sustainable, it doesn't matter how good it is.
Right. So there's your measuring point, right? There's the place that you can always walk through and question, is this a sustainable model?
Unless you have an identical twin clone.
I'm working on it, but I can't even get that third arm going yet, so I don't know about the clone.
Yeah.
Well,
resources to be more Kathy.
Yeah. I still have a secret wish that Caitlin's going to come back for 2 hours a week.
That's fair.
I think that her kids are going to get bigger, and she's going to be like, can I just work for 4 hours on Thursday?
That's what I'm hoping for Mariah too.
Mariah, that's what I mean. It's Mariah. Sorry. Yes, that's my secret from Mariah. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, that's my hope too.
Yeah, I would pose it to her.
For sure. It's actually been her name has been spinning around in my brain, which means it's time to reach out.
Yeah. Let's have I have some new restaurants to try.
Right. I agree. Let's do it. All right. I need to pick up my car. I actually, I'm at the shop now picking up my car, which is why I had to get on the road. But it was nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you. Welcome back.
Thanks. And Happy New Year. And hopefully we'll see you guys next month.
Okay,
Okay,
see you.
Drive
Bye.
fast
Bye,
and
Jan. Bye,
safely.
Mickey.
Bye.
I love it. Bye-bye.
Right, right. Yeah, and she loves a good car. She loves a good car.
I
And
can't
Karen, I
leave,
think
I
you're
don't
not
have one.
with us, but I think you're with us. If you're here, let us know.
I'm there.
Oh, good. And what was your takeaway, Karen?
Well, I really like the writing it down and picking it up because I do that all the time. And especially when you're writing, having that place to pick up again, or if you're not writing and putting a prompt for yourself there the next day works well too. But all of these things are doable. That's the thing. That it's not just one thing. There's all kinds of things that you can do to get yourself going.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, I think that so in writing this, I learned something new even as I kind of put that prosperity mindset together. And I think that act of writing down, how do I get out of a task, right? As opposed to getting in, we really always focus on how do we get into a task? How do we get into the flow? How do we get into whatever? And we don't focus on the transition out, right? How do we get out of the day? How do we get out of one set of responsibilities and into another? And I think that's a place where there's great wisdom.
Mhm.
And it is the great wisdom in that you're actually planting the seed for the next day, right? That
Mhm.
you're continuing something, that we're feeding the idea. I think there's a piece of honor in that, to be able to honor the work that we're doing today, to kind of sign it out, to sketch it, to do something, to then honor it, to grow again the next day. I haven't flushed it all out, but as I've worked through it, so I've been working with that concept just since September, and it's powerful. It's really it's rewired a lot of the things that I think about. A lot of those things. Janet, what else is going on? We never get you by ourselves.
Well, just what you're just talking about. I feel like if we get a good night's sleep and a reset, then we get to our desk or whatever job we have, and we're sort of starting over. And that's why I like the concept, what you just said. It's like you're continuing. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, I made a to-do list. I made another to-do list, and here's stuff that I learned. And there's more. But what I think is, I just have to say this. So it's a little vulnerable being on camera and being
Always.
recorded. But I stayed on. But I once took a voice lesson at the Guthrie with a woman. She has a Finnish name. It was something like Myra Keho. And in it was a children's theater actor. And I saw her when I was a child. I had a class with her once. I saw her as an adult. And she said that she didn't learn to drive until she was in her 30s. And she realized as an actor behind the wheel, she was acting. She was going, and she wasn't actually looking for cars. So she had to like go, wait, this isn't a theater performance. I actually have to look to see if I'm going to
I
get
have
hit.
to really do this.
Yeah. And so I 2 times ago, whatever, I blanked my screen so that I would be like, oh, and writing stuff down and taking pictures. I wasn't like multitasking, which is tempting. I just didn't want to be like, like I wasn't. So this time I tried to sit and listen. Anyway.
Well, and we see it, it's funny because a lot of people have that about being on film, because they'll go back and watch them and then they start to critique, like, are they crazy or whatever? But no one actually ever focuses on one person.
Yeah.
Like a stranger watching it, they don't see the same thing at all.
Yeah, and they're all part of the party.
So I have the new, so last year I started this concept of wins list, which are the to-do lists of my day. So I have, I started this promises to myself. So sometimes they have lots of things on them, sometimes they don't have much. So I just kind of get up in the day. So I'll put my note in from the night before of like, hey, here's the stuff that should get finished up.
Mhm.
But I will kind of look at, what is the promise that I have to myself? Sometimes I can make 13 promises, sometimes I can only make 4. But anytime I complete a list, I put it in this little win box at my desk. And then I can kind of go, oh yeah, I've had all these
That's
wins.
cool.
And so sometimes a physical item kind of helps us to remember that we actually are doing stuff every day that is important, that we're feeding the garden of our life. But so I have a win section, and then the next to it I have the not yet. This is the unfinished this is the not yet. So a lot of times this will be a list that's only partially complete,
Uh-huh.
but there's still something on it that I want to do. So I just am like, am I tired of looking at this? No, yeah. And so this has like 3 items in it that I'm avoiding. or I haven't just gotten to yet. So yeah, it's very interesting to me. And this actually has 2 sides to it. So and so I sometimes have to think about, right, where is the not yet? Right? Is it on the back side or is it on the front side? And yeah. So sometimes it's just aligning things for your mind to go, these are still things that are important to me, but I haven't gotten to them yet. But I got all the stuff done around it in that day, but I don't want to keep it on the list. It's got to go into this pile so that I can capture it again later, but I don't have to.
That was actually a massive aha moment for me.
Of the not yet.
Yeah, well, because you're saying like for your list, and I usually think of it what we have to do for the world, like income taxes, for example. But you just did it like internally, like you're the master of your universe.
Right, loving
Which
dominion.
just like
Yes, loving dominion, right?
yeah.
That
And I
this-
like the gentleness you had, loving eyes, the dominion. I love that work for me.
Yeah,
How beautifully you made this presentation.
right. Out of
Mm.
yeah, I'm so curious about so yes, for those of you who are watching, because we're still recording,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and share that screen. And figure out how many are actually from just a garden. Yeah, these are just basic flowers in the back garden. This one right here is actually from Maine. This is also just in somebody's backyard. This is a fancier one. This is just Nigel in the backyard.
Mhm.
Another one just outside. Yep, plain backyard garden. Background garden. The mushroom is actually from the cemetery by my house. Yeah, this is how interesting people's gardens are. I mean, that this is just people's lives. This is actually part of a bouquet.
Mhm.
This is part of a bouquet. That is at the Arboretum. Yeah, backyard. This is this is how much beauty is just laying around
Mhm.
in the backyards of people we know.
So what I love is someone watching this, they might now expand and do all these things with their jam, whatever it is they love.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's a different way of thinking, the way you created this.
yeah, yeah. This actually, I remember this house, that I just couldn't believe this flower. Like how does that grow here? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're amazing, Mickey.
Well, I'm actually amazed at how many people have cool stuff.
Mhm.
that you go, oh, wow, that is very interesting. So yeah, this is just a tiger lily. Yeah, so, and this is up in Duluth.
Hmm.
This is actually somebody I know's garden. Isn't that amazing?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Again, just tiger lilies.
Mhm.
But yeah, so not as, it's amazing how much beauty is this close to us.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, this close. Um, any words of advice, Shannon? For
Everybody come back and join live.
Yeah, come back and join live.
Keeping company.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, watching it later is awesome.
it is awesome. But
It's just doing it when you can.
doing it when you can. Lots of people watch it later. I know Donna watches it later a lot.
Mhm.
And so does Sandy. But yes, we love it when you're here.
Hi,
Karen, what?
everybody that I'm not meeting. Hi, future people.
My future people, come to real class. We like it more. Karen, any words of advice for us?
Yeah, get up earlier so you can get dressed. Me.
Yes, get up earlier so you can get dressed. Well, thanks for being here. This is my favorite place to be.
Oh,
So
wait, I stayed at a firefighter in Chicago. I stayed at a firefighter's B&B, like a
Yeah.
couple houses for our son. And so that's what Karen and I will do. So if you want to, Karen, so if they really were firefighters and they live above their garage and they bought this apartment and redid it. And they had the real firefighter stuff all over and they had the clothes you jump into. So she had her like firefighter pants and overalls. They're on the boots. So all you do is step in, pull up the straps, put on the jacket and hat, and you're out. So
oh
Karen,
my God,
maybe I'll do that next time so I'm ready.
I think that's great. That's
Yep, they
great.
also had real pictures of fires, and Jeremy's like, I'm not sure how soothing this is.
This is not soothing.
But it's about, I brought it up because it's about finding your thing and doing your thing, and their thing is
Right.
firefighting.
Yeah.
Right, and they're firefighters. Yeah,
Yep.
that's so fun. Well, my words of advice to everyone is, right, if money is if you have a problem that can be solved with money, you don't have a problem. You have an expense. And things that can be solved with money are the easiest things to solve. There are real problems that can't get solved with money, but if you have something that's solved with money, easiest thing to do. Easiest thing to do. Money's the easiest thing to fix in your business. So it's the other stuff that's harder. Infrastructure, there's hard. So have a great day. Thanks for being here. Janet, any final words for everybody? Karen,
See you next time.
see you
Yeah.
next time.
See you
See you
next
next
time.
time.
Okay.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.